Tinfoil Helmets is taped in front of a live studio audience. Is this what we meant when we said we wanted a Pierre or Yuki reunion? How do you feel when you realize your coworker will always be better than you? Welcome to Tinfoil Helmets, your occasional spicy hot take roundup of all the latest F1 rumors, and now I'm wondering if my coworkers actually listen to this, all with the latest almost believable conspiracy theories to back them up. Everything here has been carefully researched for hours to make sure it's totally founded in logic, reason, and truth. Or not. Who knows?
Shall we see what of our excellent predictions have been an amazing prognostication about the future?
I just have to say, if our predictions were right, it would have been an amazing race.
It would. But instead, we got a no, half a no, and basically a no. So,
good thing we're not keeping track of our total points this year. We'd be terrible.
Yep, we would not be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So to recap the no's from my side, Ferrari on top, nope. 1, 2, or on top of another car to allow for a crash, nope. Max, nowhere. Well, no, he was somewhere. Williams both in Q3 and finishing the points. Well, one Williams did finish in Q3, but they both did get points, so maybe that's almost worth it.
You flipped your words around.
Yeah, I did. Like I
Honestly,
do every day.
Williams had a pretty good weekend.
They know what they're doing. It's thanks to James Vowles. And then no one bins it the entire race weekend. Yuki, wanting to double down, did it twice. And Lando binned it in qualifying, so good for him.
That was a very bold prediction for a racetrack that currently has a 100% safety car record.
And you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Michael Scott.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, terrible. What about yourself? Did you have prognostications worthy of recording a podcast for?
Well, I had Oscar will lead the championship, which he now does. The Lando Norris era is gone. Welcome to the Oscar Piastri era.
Whoop whoop.
Red Bull down to fourth in the constructors. No, they're about 11 points still into third. But also there was some chatter this week that maybe the exit clause is based on his driver championship standings, not the constructors championship standings. So who knows where that exit clause is, but we'll get into does Max Verstappen still have a job later on. And I had 2 safety cars VSCs count. I was really happy that lap 1, like turn 5, we were already to 1. I'm like, okay, we just need one more. Somebody else is going to hit a wall or something. And no, it was a pretty clean race after that.
You could say that we hit the wall of safety car counts.
You know, overall, I'm just not a fan of the Jeddah circuit.
You know, I was going to say that it's warming up to me. And I feel bad about that now.
Well, yeah, my kind of take on it is that it is like a nationalistic show of we can do everything better and better than the Europeans or the Americans or anything. So it's like, so we made the fastest streets course with the most turns that's also the longest, and that really just doesn't produce good racing.
I will agree with that. I think maybe I'm biased because the last few races were kind of snooze fests in ways. I will say that I have decided that I don't like night street races for no other reason than in the dark, on the street, I have no idea which track it is. They all look the same. They just it's just barriers and lights going past really quickly. And occasionally, if you're in Vegas, you might see a hotel.
But they're going way too fast for it to be Singapore.
Kind of, but also, I mean, Singapore has fast bits. Kind of.
That's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, I don't. So it's very annoying.
Sorry, they're not making 90-degree corners, so it can't be Singapore.
Oh yeah, there you go. It's the curvy bits that they do occasionally have at Singapore. It's not like Baku. Baku's just 90-degree corners.
And there's no sphere making fun of people, so it can't be
Indeed.
Vegas.
And so I'm sitting there waiting for the one signal that it's not, and because the Jeddah Corniche circuit has absolutely no features whatsoever, I have no idea where I am. So.
It is very featureless.
Yes, because it's dark.
Yeah, but Vegas is nice because at least you can kind of tell when you're on the strip, and then I do like the card suits on like the corner.
Yeah, the Kirby things, the rumble strippy doohickey whatsits.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, like I'm just. Well, we're gonna get the purpose-built circuit here in a year or two, right?
The one that is like a Mario Kart circuit.
The one that's gonna yeet people off the edge.
Yes, they said a year or two, but I have seen no pictures of progress, and I'm assuming that if it's going to be a year or two, it must be a massive hole in the ground by now.
Well, you throw enough bodies at the problem, literally, and you can get it done.
Yeah, true. That's what the Pharaohs learned.
So, did anything happen between the weeks 2 and 3 of our first triple header of the season?
Not a lot. We'll start out with Max. Max is quitting, but then he's going to Merck, but actually he's going to Aston. But Max is staying, but Max owes Red Bull.
Yeah, that was pretty much all the Max drama all at once.
Yeah, and nothing in any way whatsoever came out of it. Clearly, it's all based on people deciding that they want to write column inches and get ad clicks.
Yeah, the two most interesting ones I found was Max going to Aston, because in one way that's like Max might never win another championship again unless Newey is truly that great at building a car. But as long as you have Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso in those seats, I don't think you're taking this seriously.
Correct.
At least this generation of Fernando Alonso.
Yuki and Max at Aston Martin reunited under Honda engines.
Yeah, with Newey, I could see Max wanting to go work with Newey again, because he did build him a rocket ship the first time.
Mm-hmm. And he can walk all over Yuki.
The other bit that I think is worthy of discussion is Max can't leave Red Bull because he owes them.
I can't. For what? It's 4 championships, man. Like,
yeah, you got your due from Max. Like, he doesn't owe you anything.
Exactly. It was such an odd thing to say, which I almost feel like will make Max want to leave even more. Because you've seen Max before. He is very much, I don't owe nobody nothing. I'm here on my own merit and I'm pretty good at it. Which sadly he is pretty good, and I don't think he does owe anybody.
Yeah. Well, owing somebody's a very weird term in sport stuff. Because, they definitely gave him the tools, but then, he's capitalized very well on it. I'd say that the debts have been paid.
I would argue that the team owes him for the fact that he carried them through multiple years when the other drivers were less than great.
That he won a Drivers' and World Constructors' Championship pretty much all on his own.
Exactly.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I don't think Max owes Red Bull anything. I think if anything, Red Bull owes Max, because you got to think if we just wave our magic wand and go poof and we remove Max Verstappen from ever being in the sport, maybe he decided being left at the gas station is absolutely terrible and he's going to be an artist now. And we never see Max Verstappen again. Do we think we see a Daniel Ricciardo World Championship? Probably not. Because I don't know if they would have trusted in Daniel long enough to stick around to when they had a rocket ship of a car. They don't win 2021 because that is just Max being Max. Charles probably wins 22.
Yep.
And whoever is in the seat probably wins 23. And then a McLaren probably wins 24.
Yep. Oscar.
Yeah, so I don't know what you can really say about any more than that.
Indeed. Shall we talk about other 4-time Red Bull champions who have had things to say this week?
As long as we can also talk about their teammates.
Yes, I think it's also important. And we should note that one of them has the backing of one law doctorate Helmut Marko.
Oh, that's the next thing to talk about. Yeah. But first, Sebastian Vettel has come out in support of Lando Norris this championship season, which means we are getting Vettel versus Webber again, just in a proxy battle this time with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri.
And this time, Webber's going to win.
He's learned how to Jos Verstappen his failures into victory.
Exactly. You're saying he's leaving Oscar Piastri at the side of the road to go to a petrol station because he didn't drive fast enough?
Yes, exactly that.
Oh, interesting. I look forward to that in Oscar Piastri's book.
Yeah, I mean, we got we have a week off to before Miami, so
indeed, this is going to be. I don't know what we're going to do. There's plenty of opportunity for us to write ridiculous stories on the internet.
Maybe go outside.
That seems like a lot of effort, though. Speaking of Sebastian and the questions about our doctor Helmut Marko. Actually, I have a piece to say.
Not medical doctor.
No, I have. There is a certain type of person who obtains a doctorate and then proceeds to call themselves doctor. And I accept that if you are a medical doctor, this is acceptable. I kind of also accept it if you happen to be, I don't know, a full-blown scientist in something very sciencey. And especially if you continue to practice in that space, also acceptable. But our Dr. Helmut Marko, illustrious member of the Formula One paddock, has a law degree, a law doctorate, and then chooses not to practice law, and then flaunt it around for the rest of eternity as Dr. Helmut Marko. If he had been a doctor of sports science, totally good, very reasonable. If he'd been a doctor of engineering, maybe a bit suspicious at that point, but at least he's kind of using... But when does he use law? Is it his fault that we got Abu Dhabi 2021? I don't know.
He does seem to write some pretty good airtight contracts to screw over almost all of his drivers.
You do raise an excellent and very valid point, and I will concede that, and I will retract my previous statement.
Yeah. I will have to say, your rant there had glimpses of one of my favorite episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine with Holt in the box. And I know we live in a world where anything can mean anything, but yeah. Great episode. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't, because I've watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but not enough of it to be steeped in its lore.
The best episode, season 6, The Box, K. Sterling Brown guest stars. It's fantastic.
Okay.
But he's a dentist, and Holt goes on a rant that dentists aren't really doctors, and doctors have co-opted the term doctor.
It's not much as law doctorates who work in Formula One.
Yeah,
that's co-opting.
Yeah, I'll send you the link when we're done with this, and it has very many shades of that. But anyway, it seems like Helmut Marko might decide he wants to step aside from running the Red Bull Junior Academy because all the travel is kind of a lot, and he thinks Seb Vettel should run it.
I don't think Seb wants to run all that because of all the travel. I think he's enjoying what he does, but he would be pretty good at it. I think he's got the right personality and motivations to do it.
Well, he's backing Lando, so he's currently on board with Lost Causes.
Well, remember, Marko wants to sign Lando.
Fair enough.
So,
do you think Zach Brown wants to sign Max? Do you think that's the driver swap we're going to get when mid-season, when Zach realizes that Lando's not the guy and Max wants out, they're going to flip?
It's going to take Zach till mid-season break to work that out. He's no CEO. Speaking of people who signed contracts, apparently George signed for a new... Oh, wait, sorry, breaking news. No, he didn't. So that seat is still wide open. They tried to close it, but it didn't work.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. George has looked pretty good this season, I will say.
Don't say those words out loud. I'm not willing to accept those yet.
He's looked very good compared to a rookie who may or may not be the second coming.
There we go. That's good to say. What else happened? The more talk about engines. Apparently we're not doing it anymore, but maybe in 2029. I don't know why we keep doing this. We should just shut up and move on. That's it. That's the segment. That's the between race drama.
There was something on my Threads feed about Logan Sargent, but I didn't bother to dive into it. It looks like he might be tied to Cadillac in 2026.
I will refer you to a previous episode where I stated the drivers that you sign indicate exactly how serious you are about competing in Formula One, and signing Logan Sargent to your team means you are not serious about Formula One.
Oh, it can't be any worse than signing Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso.
You know, they signed Fernando before everybody realized he might possibly be washed. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
If he wasn't washed, McLaren would not have let him walk.
True. And to be fair, Alpine wouldn't have let him walk either.
Fair enough. So, does anybody still have a job? How's Jack Doohan's 5 races coming along?
There has been very little rumor about him being replaced by Franco Colapinto since all the Red Bull stuff, so I don't know what's going on there. But the rumor is he had a 5-race thing, and this was race 5. So
tune in to Miami and see if Jack Doohan still has a job.
Let's see if Franco's back in the something. Anyway, can't do that. Okay. Should we see what happened in qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, I did want to segue into... this is turning into a bit of a Lance Stroll hate podcast. And at least will until the first bit of qualifying is over, because then we don't have to worry about him for the rest of the episode. We can pivot from a Lance Stroll hate podcast to a Lando Norris hate podcast.
We're not going to go through Fernando Alonso.
We only deal with drivers under the age of 40.
Okay, good job.
Isn't Lewis 39?
He's 40 now.
Oh, okay. We only deal with drivers under the age of 41.
Got it. Like your adjustment there. So, yes, in a breaking news situation, shock moment, new stat, Stroll out in Q1 more times than our illustrious Grand King K-Mag. For a note, the record, I think I prefer K-Mag.
I think I also prefer K-Mag because at least there's some bit of he got there on his own merit or kept the seat that long for his own merit. And we've talked about this before, and I will defend Stroll getting a chance in Formula One. I think he deserved to get a race seat in Formula One. That experiment is now over. He's been in F1 since, 2017? He's approaching a decent number of Grand Prix at this point.
Yeah, I think it was 2018.
I'm going to look it up. He's only 26?
What?
He's 26 years old. His first entry was the 2017 Australian Grand Prix. He has been in Formula One now. This is his 8th season in Formula One.
Yeah, he's peaked.
Yeah. He has had 174 entries and 171 starts. So somehow he's missed 3 races.
How did... One of them was COVID.
Oh, he did get COVID.
What were the other ones? Oh, he broke his hand.
That's right.
I think that was 2 races.
Anyway. Yeah, but he's had... This is his technically 9th season in Formula One.
And he's still blaming the car.
Yeah, that was the other thing is, he was asked about his record now for the most Q1 exits. And first off, great job, reporter, actually asking the question of how do you feel about having the most Q1 exits in the history of Formula One? And he said if you put the McLaren drivers in the Saubas, they would also have a lot of Q1 exits. And part of me wants to...
Actually accurate.
That's fair. I mean, we have seen some Saubas have some decent performances from time to time. The Haas drivers are looking okay as well from time to time. But he's never been in a Sauber.
No, he's been in a Williams and a Racing Point.
Well, the Williams was so-so when he was in it, but it was still kind of at the very end. But they still had the Mercedes engines, and, he did fine in the Williams. He got a podium, I believe, in the Williams.
I think you might be right on that.
Because he does have a podium to his name and a pole position. So he's already doing better than some of our favorites like Nico Hülkenberg.
Nico Hülkenberg does not have a podium, but he does have a pole position.
That's true. Lance
in a
has
Williams.
both. But he hasn't been in a Sauber. He's actually been in decent cars that his teammates have put on the podium, and while he's been languishing outside of the points, and it's I get his point, but at a certain point, it's yeah, but you haven't been in those cars.
The defining moment, one could argue, in his career was when was it 23, when the first half of the season, the Aston Martin car was good, and Fernando looked like he might have a chance about bringing it to max, and then the car just disappeared. But when Fernando is putting it on podiums and you are nowhere to be seen,
yeah,
you're not doing it.
No, and that's also you got to go on the other hand of how serious is Lawrence Stroll taking this, because what happened to that car that was like a rocket ship and then now was in the middle of the midfield, puts the mid in midfield, as the kids would say.
He's just throwing it for the aero time so that then they can get it right next year.
Right. We did have a listener comment on Lance Stroll.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that would be that, so one of our listeners was once watching a Seattle Seahawks game in which the quarterback threw 6 interceptions, and the coach still refused to take him out of the game. This is the most interceptions ever thrown by an NFL quarterback during a game. And the coach still refused to take him out.
Impressive.
So our listener comment suggests that since that must be the greatest quarterback of all time, since why would you not take him out after throwing 6 interceptions? Lance Stroll must be the greatest Formula One driver of all time, because else why would you not remove him from the seat at this point in time?
I like the ipso facto QED aspect here. So
yeah.
I will concur with this.
That if you have a driver who over the course of 9 seasons has had the most exits from Q1, and he's still setting these records in his 9th season, ergo, he must be the greatest Formula One driver of all time. And it truly is just the car's fault. Otherwise, he'd be out of that seat.
Yeah, I agree. This is sound foundational logic. It will go down in the stone tablets of history.
The only problem is how much he's being beat by his teammate.
Well, it's just because he wants to make Fernando feel at home and welcome to the team, so that when the car is fixed, he knows that Fernando will do him a solid. Which shows how much he doesn't understand Fernando, because Fernando would run over his own mother if he meant he could get a world championship.
Finally get to 3. Be 1 behind Max.
Indeed.
Anything else you want to talk about Lance Stroll?
No.
So then Q3 took place, and Oscar set a great provisional pole lap. And
very early on, too. That lap held.
Yeah. And then Lando hit a wall.
Of his performance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And literally as well? Did he hit wall too?
He smashed it pretty good, red flagged out of the session. Nobody else had set a time, P10 guaranteed.
You know, it shows how much of a considerate driver Lando Norris is that he decided to bin it with enough time for everybody else to have a chance to put in a couple of laps.
He has inherited Charles's "I am so stupid."
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know what else we can really say about Lando.
Nope, we're not going to say anything else about it because,
Yeah. But then Max put it on pole with a yellow, or a purple, yellow pole lap.
Great lap. It was, 1/100th of a second faster than Oscar's?
Yep. And George was right there as well. And also, great job by GP of figuring out how they could still get Max 2 laps in the final session.
What did he do?
So they fueled for all the laps coming out of it, and then they did a pit stop to change the tires, and then he went out and did another lap. So they did a fast lap. They cooled down. They did a pit stop, which was about on par with their Bahrain pit stops, and then got back out and did another lap.
I remember them hearing somebody saying something about this, but now you've provided the clarity that I needed. Now I understand.
So that put because Max went on pole and then Oscar came back and went even faster again. But there was just this whole concept that because we found out Max was actually carrying like a bit of a weight penalty on that lap, that it was even more impressive. And then we got to the race.
Then we get to the race. It was an exciting build-up. It was a day of suspense and excitement as we waited patiently for the inevitability of a Max on pole win. And we were disappointed. Well,
I mean, I wasn't disappointed. I kind of wanted Oscar to win. I thought it was great.
Oscar was lovely in this race.
Oscar did great.
He did. His overtake... let's talk about the beginning first. Let's go in chronological.
That was one of the shortest times I've ever seen those lights held.
Yes, that was very quick.
It was 5 red lights are on and, were they already off?
You know, would that have helped Lando last week? He would have been...
No, because he was so far in front of his grid box, like parked, it was
while everybody was still coming up behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so the lights go out.
I do think that caught Max a little bit by surprise with how quick it was, and I think that led to his start. Yeah. That's at least my theory, but because that was a very short hold.
It was very short.
Yeah.
And then we get to turn 1.
Yeah, and Oscar threw it down the inside, left Max no space. Max ran off the track and tried to piece off up the road, and then there was a safety car. Pierre and Yuki hit, and I'm surprised we never got like any sort of they're investigating that incident. It was just like, yeah, okay, things happen.
Yeah, first lap incident, blah blah blah, etc. etc.
Oh, we didn't mention that they changed 25 pieces on Norris's car.
Did they change the driver?
No, they
didn't. Did that
didn't.
make it better? Oh.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. But I think that safety car really hurt Max because there was no time for conversation on the pit wall of, hey, man, you really should give that position back because...
And even if there had been, he would have had to have waited to give it back.
Yeah.
He couldn't have given it back during the safety car, I think, unless you got told by race control to do it, because it'd have been like, well, Oscar's not going to go in front of you because then Oscar's going to get in trouble and everybody thinks that Max is trying to dupe you.
Yeah, I think they would have had to call up race control and be like, hey, we want to give that back. Can we give that position back? Yeah. I don't think Martin Brundle was a fan of the penalty. He thought it was a little too lenient. But I think it was actually pretty good, all things considered. I think if the safety car didn't happen, I would have been fully okay with throwing like the full 10-second penalty out there. But because the safety car kind of didn't give them the lap or so we've seen in the past to, hey, give the position back, I think I'm fine with the reduced 5-second penalty.
I understand your perspective. I think I just get hung up all the time on I think that 5-second penalties don't do anything for anybody like Max. I mean, in this situation, I think net it kind of did end up causing something, but it was still very much on the bubble versus my favoured, loved, adored drive-through.
I mean, I don't think they use drive-through penalties enough, but
Yeah.
I think given a lap one, turn one incident,
Maybe.
I definitely see it. I kind of think you want to put the car where you think the car should have been, and right behind Oscar was fine. Like, I think that's great because that's where he should have been. Versus if you think of, some of the things we've seen where somebody does a really bad move, causes a collision, or somebody goes spinning off, or doesn't give the place back and then passes somebody else. So like they need a harsher penalty to put them back to where they really should have been. This one, they kind of ended up, I think, where he should have been. So I'm not, I think it was always going to be touch and go for him to win this race. I think if he gets through clean, I think he probably does, because that Red Bull was working better in clearer air than in dirty air. He never really caught back up to Oscar after the pit stop. But I also think Oscar was fully ahead, and Oscar got his elbows out more than maybe anybody else we've seen against Max. He left him absolutely no space. You can say that, like, oh yeah, Max, was never trying to make the corner, and Oscar was doing his best, what we've seen Max do impression of, like, I'm going to do as little as I can to make this corner, and you're going to go off the track and have to deal with the stewards. And that's a move we haven't seen from Lando Norris.
Oscar was so calm. He didn't bottle it. He just drifted through, made a nice corner. He was perfectly positioned over the curb, and it was just it didn't look like he was on the edge. It was just perfect. And I thought that Oscar showed how you need to take on Max, which is go while Max has to like have a full-on angry panic behind him.
Well, to be fair, it's the stuff we've seen from Lewis against Max in the past of, like, I'm going to, because I think to some extent Oscar was like, well, I'm not gonna do what I need to do to wreck my car. If the car's gonna get wrecked, it's gonna be Max's fault, because he'll drive into the side of me and he'll get the penalty. And then after we know that Max has the penalty, I'm just gonna chill out relatively behind him and know that he's going to come out behind me and I'll have free clear air. So I can drive conservatively because George is blowing up his tires behind me. So, I think it was a much more mature drive on Oscar's part than we've seen from anybody else challenging Max in recent years.
I agree with that wholly and completely.
I think Charles could give Max that kind of drive, but then the Ferrari strategy team comes in and it's all lost. So
what's the point? Just why even bother driving at that point?
Yeah. Speaking of bad overtakes,
this Lando.
I'm reminded of a quote from President George W. Bush of, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. You just don't fool a person twice."
The first time in this race when I saw Lando do that, I was like, "Oh, schoolboy error. You just thought you were going to take it." I totally get it.
Yeah,
but to
do it twice,
immediately afterwards, not like 20 minutes later.
On the next lap, yeah.
On the next lap. And for those people who did not see this and how flippin' amazing this was, Lando's behind Lewis, and Lando clearly has the speed without question. And they're coming up to, what was it, the penultimate corner?
The DRS detection zone, which Lewis knows well from his battle with Max Verstappen in 2021.
And if you watch what happened in 2022, and I think it happened in 2023, everybody played games with this. And Lando's like, I'm just going to overtake right before the DRS line. And he gets in front of him and he's feeling all smart. He's like a cat. He's got the cream and and he goes down into turn one. And then Lewis is like, peace, as he shoots past him with DRS. And that's bad. And, maybe you should have done better. But when you do it on the next lap too, like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's the big one for me is, you do it once, that Lewis Hamilton is still a wily old competitor. You do it twice, you're an idiot.
Yeah, you just have to just gently lift off the throttle just a tad and just wait for it and then go past him.
But that's the thing, Lando is not patient.
No.
To be fair, Lando is driving similar to, I'd say, Max a la 2019, 2020, although not quite as good.
I don't disagree with that. it's not that he's driving like Max in 2019 or 2020. He's driving like any reasonably competent driver who is a little bit over their skis.
And very impatient.
Yes. That's the over the skis.
And if there's one thing we saw in Lewis's 7 titles, it's he had the patience to win those championships.
Yeah.
And to some extent, we're seeing that in Oscar.
With his overtake of Lewis Hamilton, which was beautiful.
I mean, we can go a little bit of that was fresh tires versus used tires, but
that's not an overtaking spot.
It's not. It was absolutely brilliant. It's like if you want a night and day difference between those McLaren drivers, it was how they overtook Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, it was. I fully accept that he had the tires to do it, but the fact that he just chose to do it because he could, and he's done this before. He did this somewhere else where he was like, "Oh yeah, I suppose I've got some time. I'll just pass on through." It was great. It was lovely. It's great. And then we napped.
Yeah, not a lot happened in the back half of the race. George blew through his tires. Is he
Shocker.
not a tire whisperer?
Yeah.
What happened with George and his tires? Because he was like right there, and then after the pit stop, he was like the only one that couldn't get the hard tires working.
Yeah, apparently the hard tires didn't work on the car. I mean, Kimi didn't have a great time with the tires either, and I think he was on hards and went pretty early too.
Ferrari actually had a decent strategy this race. Like they left Charles out a little bit longer. Charles ended up nabbing a podium away from George. Like not bad.
Possibly because of the strategy too. Like it wasn't just that they didn't screw their own driver. It might have actually helped him.
However, on the other hand, they brought updates to the car, and I don't think it works at all. At least at Jeddah. We'll see about in Miami. Another tight, twisty street course.
Bit slower though.
Bit more 90 degrees because we are in America after all.
More humidity probably too. Less dry air, so that might help a little bit.
Yep.
So, what else happened? Sainz being the unwilling helper to keep them in the points. I think he was much nicer after the race when you saw him do it, but during the race he was like, "You're asking me to help Alex? Why are you asking me to help Alex?"
Well, see, that's just from his time in Ferrari, where Ferrari doesn't know how to deal with a number one and a number two driver, or how to deal with two drivers.
He was too used to somebody coming on the radio and say, "Swap the cars, swap the cars,"
or dearest Carlos, it is our apologies. We realize we've left you out for 15 laps longer than our strategy intended to. Do you want to change tires now? I mean, I know we got like 5 laps left in the race, but you want to give it a go?
He's in a better team now. He's in a better place. Good drive by Sainz. Good drive. Overall.
That Williams is looking good.
They have made a good incremental step from last year and from the previous year, and it's all James Vowles.
If we get a surprise race winner this year, a la red flagged Monza, Daniel Ricciardo, something like that. What was it? Pierre Gasly at the Hungaroring. I think it's going to be a Williams.
Which one do you want it to be?
I would like it to be Alex.
Because
Alex doesn't have a win, and I felt like put a lot of time and effort into that team and getting that drive. And I think, as much as I always want sport to be on merit, if anybody on this grid who doesn't have a win deserves a win, I think it would be Alex Albon.
I will co-sign that. Anything else about the race? Do we want to do the stat, or is there anything else before we get to the stat?
Well, there is the stat, which is Oscar Piastri now has as many wins in Formula One as Lando Norris.
Which, given he's been in it for 2.5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, Lando didn't have the car, blah, 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 etc., etc. I kind of get it. But when the time matters, you know what happens? Oscar pulls out the bag.
Yeah, but I think that's just that's a testament to what Oscar has. Oscar now has 5 wins. Lando has 5 wins. Lando didn't get his first win until Miami last year. Mm-hmm. Oscar's won 2 races this year? 3 races? 2 races this year.
So we've had 5 races, and he won in Bahrain, and he won here. Did he win in China?
He did win. He has 3. He has 3 race wins.
3 wins.
3 wins so far this year. So that means, and Lando has 1. So that means they won a combined 6 races last year.
Mm-hmm.
Which is insane to think about, given how much quicker that McLaren looked than the Red Bull most of the year. That they only won 6 races out of 24 last year. Yeah. And Oscar's already won 3 this year.
Let's see what happens in Miami.
And if you take Oscar's Australia out of the mix, where he followed Lando into the gravel, if we say they all held positions, his results this season would be 2-1-3-1-1.
I'm not sure. Maybe we're over-egging Oscar a bit much. It doesn't seem like he's really got it.
I know, he's looking really good.
He does look like he's really good. And he's so chill about it, too. And that's what really pains me in a good way. He's so relaxed.
I mean, I think at this point, it's either Oscar or Max who's going to win the championship. And I'm inclined to lean towards Oscar, given that car looks really good. Oh, one thing we didn't talk about that I saw was it looks like McLaren might find a way around their flexi wings to still have flexi wings, but flexi wings in the part where the FIA is not looking for flexi wings, those deviant people.
I have this very strange opinion that the rules are meant to be broken. And as long as you completely comply with the rules, and that you're not actually breaking the rules, Formula One, for better or for worse, is not a sport about the spirit of the rules. It is a sport about the actuality of the rules.
Oh, I will absolutely 100% agree with you on that. It's you have to do what the rules say, but this is sport. It's not about what we think the rules should say. It's about what the rules actually say.
Exactly.
But for those who haven't seen the post about it, is and you see this on the onboard cameras if they're looking backwards, there are like little dots on the rear wings that the FIA uses to monitor wing flex. But there are bits outside of those dots, and it looks like on the McLaren, those bits are now a little bit more flexier than they used to be. But since they are not inside the dots, they are not governed by the FIA, so they can be as flexy as we want them to be.
I think it's very impressive engineering to keep the dots, which are positioned on some very flexible parts of the wing that supposedly track the whole wing moving, and they don't move. Nothing moves. But then the rest of it does. It's beautiful. I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Have we made sure they just aren't drawing little dots on the camera to make it look like the wing's not flexing?
We should check that.
Yeah.
We should check that. FIA, remember, check that the camera doesn't have dots on it.
Yeah, perfect. Which would actually be more impressive than...
It would be pretty impressive.
Yeah.
How do they know not rendering it on the feed, in fact, that they're not even on the camera? Who knows what's doing? How do we know it's not AI generated? How do they know it's really from the race?
You know, that's like the next big cheating scandal, like from Ferrari dumping oil into the fuel mixture to get more power. It's like, oh no, we're intercepting the camera feed and we're adding dots to the camera feed. so it looks like they're all fine. We're manipulating it in post.
Don't give them ideas.
I would just be impressed if they could figure out how to do that.
I would love to see them do that. I think it's very technically possible from a graphics perspective, but I believe some of those cameras are a closed loop system.
Yeah, that like they only get power from the car and nothing else, and it's not shared like anywhere else. So it's like like how would you do it? And it's
challenge accepted.
It would be crazy. What we've done is we put a little we put a little screen in front of that camera, so it's recording the screen, and then we have our own camera that we're taking video from, and then we're augmenting the video to have the dots on it, and then so their camera is recording our video camera. Like, yeah.
Have you seen the TV show Silo or read the book Wool?
My wife has watched Silo, and I've walked through and go, hey, this show looks interesting. Maybe one day I'll watch that.
So do you care about spoilers?
I mean, other people who listen to this podcast might, because this isn't just a conversation we talk to each other about, although it might as well could be. We do put this out for other people to listen to, and they might care about Silo spoilers.
Okay. I won't spoiler it, despite the fact that basically the conversation beforehand might be considered spoiler.
I did see at the end of season 1 when there was a flicker on the screen, if that's what you're referring to.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yep, I did see the flicker.
Okay, I will not reveal anymore. I recommend it's a good show. It's pretty good. Season 1 is better than season 2. Recommend reading the book. Book goes on for a while, but it's still good. Anyway,
I'm watching Strange New Worlds right now. Star Trek.
Oh, I love that. It's great.
Yeah,
and
I like the idea of
coming soon.
I like the idea of Captain Pike knows he's going to experience the accident and then is like kind of doing cavalry things because of it.
I love it. You should also check out Discovery. Very different, but it's all part of the same universe.
Well, I watched Discovery, and then season 2 was like kind of the backdoor pilot-y for Strange New Worlds, and then I've been alternating seasons of Strange New Worlds and Discovery. So I have one more season of Discovery left, and I'm in season 2 of Strange New Worlds.
Okay, perfect. Just in time for season 3 of Strange New Worlds.
I do get annoyed a little bit with Discovery, where I feel like every episode has to end with a 10-minute therapy session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
This really wasn't a great race if we're spending at least like 2 or 3 minutes talking about Star Trek shows. Welcome.
Should we roll on to Drive of the Day, who couldn't wait for it to be over because they wanted to go home and watch the episode of Star Trek New Worlds?
Welcome to Gold Shirts, your annual Strange New World Roundup podcast. This week we're taking on...
well, this explains it. This is why Ferrari keeps screwing up, because every episode who wears a red shirt dies.
There you go.
Okay. My driver of the day is Oscar, because he was so calm and pulled off the great overtake.
We were done with the race?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was...
Kind of.
Yeah. My driver of the day was Charles Leclerc. I thought he did a good job of, because after qualifying he looked pretty defeated because he's like, we're so far behind like the next three, and he managed to pull off a podium, and I felt like rewarding him on driver of the day for that, although I think Oscar also did a great job.
My driver, who couldn't wait for it to be over, was Carlos Sainz, because he kind of seemed annoyed at having to carry the team, even though they were both together at the end, so he did it anyway.
Yeah. I went with Liam Lawson because Isaac put it in the points.
I forgot Liam was in this race.
Yeah, and Isaac put it in the points. And Yuki put it in a wall. So, it's all good.
They're all putting something in something.
But yeah, that was... There was some stat that I can't remember or see, but like it pretty much boils down to Yuki isn't that far behind Max. He's just doing a better job of putting it into Q3 than Liam was, and Liam's only had 11 races and Yuki's had like 70 races, and maybe we judged Liam a little too harshly, and maybe that's true, but
the statement is not, is Liam better than Yuki? Is Yuki always going to be better than Liam? The statement is they should not have put Liam in the Red Bull. They should have put Yuki in it and given Liam more time, and instead they've driven him off the side of a cliff.
Yeah, and I think this more just confirms that Yuki should have been in that Red Bull seat all along.
Yep.
He's doing pretty good.
Yeah, no credit. I mean, he had a whoopsie today, but
put it into a wall. Yeah, but that just helped Lando, because that was 2 less drivers in the top 10 he had to get past. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, true. Speaking of driver of the day, I did hear an interesting commentary today about why it's been so screwed up, because today's official driver of the day was Max Verstappen with 24% of the vote. Apparently, the driver of the day result now influences F1, what's it called? Fantasy F1.
Oh.
Apparently it has an impact, and I think that's screwing up some of the voting.
Oh.
Yeah, I couldn't get any more details on it because there wasn't any linkage, but I was like, oh, that would explain it.
That would explain it.
Yeah. Championship watch?
Well, Oscar's on top. Red Bull is 11 points clear of Ferrari. Ferrari did close in on Red Bull this week.
No thanks to Lewis.
Was that my... Well, no, Lewis scored points. Yuki didn't.
He did.
Didn't I have a prediction of like... No, okay.
No, you didn't.
I said Ferrari down to 4th, or Red Bull down to 4th, so I was anticipating it more. Yeah.
Spicy takes and rumors?
Do we want to talk about the Red Bull at all? Because it's interesting in the sense of like...
What you need to expand upon that, therefore yes is the answer.
I have no idea what this team is doing anymore, because it seems like 1 week they're falling apart. It seems like 1 week they have it all back together in Jeddah. I alternate back and forth between this team is cooked or this team is lying to us about how cooked they are.
They are not lying. I think they are cooked. It's just that on your way down, you do still remember how you're supposed to do it.
Okay.
And you have to also factor in that Christian Horner today, post-race, was apparently doing the whole handing out pieces of paper, getting the teamwork around, pointing on the map exactly why Max does not deserve it. And I'm like, people just... And Max was making comments like he wouldn't want to talk about it because if it was unfair. And I'm like, I get that you don't like penalties, but like...
So I think that one's a little I think less nefarious, because I think in charge of swearing they also were cracking down on second guessing stewards. So, Max didn't want to say something like, well, I wouldn't have given myself a penalty, because why would you ever give yourself a penalty? So I think he was just trying to avoid that bit of a trap. I will defend Max Verstappen on things like that, because, he was also praising Oscar in the post-race interview about how great a job he's done in such a short amount of time. I think overall Max is genuinely a good guy. So, I don't... If it was Fernando, absolutely there's some nefarious going on behind the scenes. But I think this is like... Max knows that, especially in those situations, like the FIA do not like him in the terms of what he has said in the past, and they would take any rationale they could to penalize him in that sense. So, in that sense, I think it's a good idea. That's a lot the word sense, but I think in that reasoning, I understand why he didn't want to talk about anything.
Yeah, Max is a very reasonable person, and he certainly sticks to. He is consistent in his beliefs and will say what he believes in a consistent way, versus Fernando, who likes to change it. He is a chameleon.
Do we have any predictions for the Formula One Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix 2025?
We do, but I first have to question Crypto.com is still going. They still have enough money.
Well, Firefest 2 is happening, so...
No, it's paused. It's paused. They paused it. I saw the news story yesterday that they have paused it for reasons I don't really understand.
Something about permitting and not having permitting and permitting. Yeah.
Did that stop them last time?
Well, they had permits last time.
Oh.
But this time they said they had permits to a place, and then the municipality where they said they had permits to said, we've never heard of these people, but they don't have permits. And then they showed a bunch of like things where they had provisional permits. And it's... I don't know. I'm not getting involved in Firefest 2, that's for certain. That's definitely also that's a Lando Norris on Lewis Hamilton overtake right there.
Too real. Okay, predictions.
Fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah, predictions. 1, a car gets impounded by customs because
they haven't paid their tariff?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody filled out the right carnet form for it to be able to work.
Right.
2, it's a total snooze fest because it's Miami and it doesn't seem very exciting, and it never is exciting. Piastri sticks on the podium, number 1 again. And then Lando looks sad because he's getting taken to the cleaners by his teammate.
Yeah. I had Oscar continues his domination in countries with questionable human rights.
Topical.
Yeah. Ferrari double podium. I will admit this is just pure hopium.
Hopium for the podium.
Yeah. At some point I should just say Ferrari nowhere on the podium just to try to see if we can get both of them on the podium. You know, one of those... Yeah. If we say it won't happen sort of things.
Will it into being through manifesting the anti-story.
Yeah, if they crash into each other in DNF, then we'll just make the wildest predictions for Monaco? Was that the one after it?
I can't remember. Let's leave it as a surprise.
Oh, they did say they were going to change up the calendar to actually make it a little better for 2026. And then Karma bites at Lando for him shaking hands with the devil last year.
Let's see what happens on that one.
Yeah. That one's ambiguous because who knows what it could be.
No idea. Couldn't guess it.
Hey, if he has a 4-second pit stop, I'm counting it. If he has like a 4-second pit stop that causes him to really lose a place, I'm counting it.
Speaking of pit stops, not to completely derail from the subtle commentary there, Ferrari nailed the pit stops this weekend. 2 and 2.1. Fastest pit stops of the weekend.
Yeah.
Ferrari.
They've been good.
Mm-hmm. And then Mercedes, I think, was second fastest, and Red Bull way down.
They were like 2-3. Well, to be fair, one of them had a 5-second penalty, so that's really going to be way down.
True.
And it's never quick even after the 5-second penalty because you're just standing there going, "Can I touch the car?"
Unless you're not, then unless you're V carb, in which case you just touch the car as soon as it stops, and then you swear yourself. As always, we await with bated, passionate breath for your feedback at feedback@tinfoilhelmets.com to let us know your conspiracy theories, feedback, and wants. Remember to tell your friends to like, listen, rate, and subscribe to the greatest Formula One podcast from the Pacific Northwest.
I've got my scotch. What are you drinking? Straight vodka?
Water.
Tequila?
Sadly, booze focused us, man. I had a can of cider on Friday night, and I'm pretty sure I had a hangover by 9 o'clock, and it fucked up my sleep for the entire night.
But sometimes it's just worth it.